Well, now that that's over with, welcome back to part 2. Not sure what I'm going to call this little series of videos yet. Well, I guess we'll see. But let's just get right back into it and get started. Let's see. False. The most powerful military force consisted of armored knights riding into battle. Sure, there were mounted members of the military, but more often than not, soldiers had to fight on the ground. A manuscript in our collection, The Flower of Battle, that would be Fiore dei Liberi. He wrote that manuscript. That's Italian martial arts. Shows all kinds of medieval weapons, armor, and combat tactics. These two pictures show combat with dagger, top, and staff. Yep. Check out the scary guy on the left, wielding a cavemanish club. Yeah, that would be a like a peasant's club or something. Who knows? This might have been the book that taught Gandalf to fight, because fantasy books are real, even if authors sometimes get the facts wrong. Oh. But that was it? Holy shit, that was all of it. Okay. Well, actually, that's a very nice segue, though. Because that ends on the perfect note. Doesn't it? Because that's actually one of my main interests. That's actually, previously, way back, I wasn't overly interested in the Middle Ages. I much preferred earlier time periods, Rome, the ancient Celts, the ancient Greeks, Sparta, the Persians, the Carthaginians, the Iberians, all those kinds of guys. I loved studying about them. And, but I just kind of skipped over the Middle Ages. I was like, okay, I picked up, little bits and pieces here and there, but mostly I just skipped over it and was like, I don't care. But then, I slowly started picking up, a few years back, the clue, because I'm just going to say it right now, I was right there with everyone else. I was on that bandwagon. The katana was God. The Asia and, the East, came up with all the martial arts, and we Europeans didn't know jack shit. We just ran in, swinging a sword like it was a club, going, smash at everything. And we had no artistry, no skill, no nothing. It was just all about make the weapon as heavy as you possibly can and bash someone over the skull with it. That was my thinking at the time, just like a lot of people's thinking. And then, but slowly, I don't know what it was, 4 years ago now, 5, I slowly started picking up little tidbits. I think the very first one I ever watched, and I'll leave a link in the description if you want to watch the video, was from, I'm not going to try and pronounce his name. I don't want to make myself into a complete idiot. All I know is that he runs a HEMA club in Germany. His first name's Roland. I can pronounce that. His last name, I think it's Warcheska. I'm probably way off on that, so please don't quote that. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. Please correct me. But it was shortly after the show Vikings, which is like my #1 favorite show. It's in fact the show that delayed me getting started on this first thing tonight, because season 4 premiered tonight and I had to see it. But it was shortly after that show had gotten started, and I looked up, how Vikings fought, just out of curiosity, because, if any of you out there have watched the show, it shows a lot of martial arts kind of stuff going on, especially the first episode of the first season had one of the probably most choreographed fight scenes in the whole series. The very opening scene that introduces the characters of Ragnar and Rollo has a lot of really kind of almost flashy in a way, only because it's really heavily choreographed, but mostly it's very accurate, kind of Eskrima-ish martial arts going on in it, with like snapping a guy's arm with a broken off axe haft and disarming the sword and taking it away and running the guy through with it, and just a lot of really cool, flashy martial arts moves. I mean, I say flashy because you can clearly tell it's really kind of choreographed, but otherwise, everything in it was fairly practical, and it made me kind of curious. I was like, I was starting to kind of open my mind and broaden my horizon a little bit. I was willing to accept the idea that maybe warriors in Europe weren't as dullard and just stupid and idiotic as I had once thought they were. I had always had an open mind about Europe during the Renaissance period, the rapier and, all this kind of stuff, and, really, because that's what, it always gets love in the movies. Just like the katana and Eastern martial arts and all that kind of stuff, the rapier has always gotten a lot of love in Hollywood, with really flashy moves, and it makes it look really cool and artistic and really skillful. Whereas it rarely ever did that with anything out of the Middle Ages or, anything before that. But so I looked up Viking fighting style, or Viking fighting, Viking martial arts, something like that, and I came across this video, and it was like 30 minutes long on YouTube. Again, I'll link it, from Roland. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name. Not yet. Hopefully someone will correct me, and I'll figure it out. But until then, not yet. But, so, anyway, and it was him and another guy, and it was actually like somebody had a camcorder, or probably their phone, in the crowd and was filming it. And they were demonstrating examples of how Vikings might have fought with a shield. And that video opened my eyes quite a bit, because there was nothing clunky about this at all. There was no lack of skill there. There was nothing, that was just wailing at somebody and just bashy, Hulk smash kind of shit like I was imagining. This was extremely skillful. This was a dance. This was, really moving, really, agilely, and with a lot of, I keep repeating myself, I'm probably kind of fan gushing, but it's a good memory in my head, it's a really vibrant memory in my head. That first time I watched this video, and I watched it from like start to finish, just watching everything, and they did mostly, Viking sword and Viking shield, the big 3-foot shield where you're talking about open ward, and all this. They did a few things with the buckler as well, buckler and sword as well, and but mostly it was supposed to be a hypothesis about basing it off of later medieval texts, how the Vikings may have fought. And I watched it, and it was like the first thing. It was like the key. The door in my mind for European martial arts was closed. Well, actually, the key, I guess the key would have been Pankration, because I had found out about it pretty early on, and that it was really old. But it was an unarmed martial art. And I thought, okay, so they knew wrestling and, some like kickboxing stuff, but that was it. I didn't think about anything else, anything with weapons or anything like that. I never thought about it. I thought, put a weapon in a European's hand and he becomes a single-minded moron. Until I watched this video. So the key was Pankration. This video was what turned the key. And then it just kind of sat there. Because events occurred, real life intruded, and I was unable to get to a computer, I was unable to do anything for a while, and then when I got back, I was just kind of messing around, I wasn't doing anything. And I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what it was now, but somewhere along the line, was that it? I don't think that was it. Somewhere along the line, I looked up, I had read about it before, half sorting, but I didn't know anything about it. I just kind of blew it off. I'm like, you're grabbing the sword, the sword by the blade? What are you, an idiot? You want to get cut? But somewhere along the line, I thought, it came up again somewhere, and I looked it up. Something sparked it in my memory again, and I looked it up on Wikipedia, which I know is a site that a lot of people want to bitch about, but personally, I think most of the articles on Wikipedia are perfectly alright. It's just occasionally you get one that was written by a moron, or edited by a moron. But as long as you're intelligent enough to go to other sources and look things up, and you know things for yourself, and you find out things from other places, then you can pretty much, for yourself, figure out if what you're reading on Wikipedia is correct or stupid. It shouldn't be used maybe necessarily as a first. I shouldn't get off on Wikipedia. That came out wrong. Ignore that. Anyway, the point is, I looked it up and read about half sorting on Wikipedia. Didn't read much about it, just enough to know that it was a thing, and that it was mostly done in armored fighting, or to make the sword more maneuverable. But as well as reading about it, I read about the Mordstrike, or Mordhau, the murder stroke, where you actually grab the sword by the blade with both hands and conk somebody upside the skull or whatever with the hilt. You know, you use it like a club or a warhammer, that sort of thing. And somewhere along the way, I got curious. And so I got on YouTube, and I wasn't expecting to find anything. I thought this is way too, you know, I want to say oblique. I know that's not the right word. I don't know what word I'm looking for. I've lost it. It's just poofed out of my brain for a little while. It's gone on lunch, the word I'm looking for. I was thinking, you know, this is way too of a oddball thing. Nobody's going to know anything about it. There's not going to be anything on YouTube about this at all. And so I type in Mordstrike, or being practiced, or something like that. And so I come up with a video right off the bat. Right off the bat, right at the top of the list. And it's two guys demonstrating the Mordstrike with long swords. And I kick it on, and I watch it, and I think, this is cool. These guys know what they're doing. They've practiced this before. What is this? And I start looking, and there's more videos, and I'm going through here, and I discover Skallagrim on YouTube, and I will put a link to his channel and the video. Although it's not the same video anymore. He updated it. He did a brand new version of the video, talking with brand new, you know, with brand new gear and weapons, and doing a test with it and all that. But I'll put a link to him. So who is that now? The Shield video, the article I've been reading, and Skallagrim. Okay. So maybe I'll just do a link to Skallagrim's channel. You can go there and subscribe. He deserves a lot more subscriptions than he has, because he is awesome. Totally awesome. But, and it was his video about, I think actually the first one wasn't actually the half-sorting video. It was the myth about the unwieldy European sword, or something like that. You can find it on his channel. Right down there. Just go down there. Anyway, and it showed him with like a head cam on, doing first-person stuff, and occasionally would skip to a third-person camera out aside of him and a buddy of his practicing moves, you know, and showing how quick and agile the longsword, the European longsword, actually was, and that it wasn't this big, slow, heavy clunker, you know, like people think. That it was in fact a match for the katana in speed and dexterity. And so I watched that one, and I watched his half-sorting video, and somewhere in there I discovered the term HEMA, historical European martial arts. And I started studying it, I started looking it up, I started finding PDF manuals, I started finding PDFs of the original manuscripts so I could read them. I started saving all kinds of videos on YouTube of people sparring with it and practicing it, and I started looking for books I could buy. I at present have two. They're the best ones I could find for an affordable price. They're not very cheap. On Amazon. I'm not going to mention their names yet, but maybe later. But I got a trainer. In fact, you can see it right here. This was my very first trainer. It's very cheap from Cult of Athena. It's not balanced very well, but I wanted one. So I got one. And now you can see I've got swords on the wall behind me, and I've got like a ton of trainers over here. I'm really out of time, but the point is, I became absolutely obsessed with HEMA. I wanted to know everything about it. And you know, I've never been to a HEMA club. I probably won't, but it's simply because I like teaching myself. But you know, it deserves so much more credit than it has. And some movies are starting to get to where they show it more often, like Ironclad with James Purefoy shows him using half-sorting with a great sword. You know, they're getting better about it. And just now that I've spazzed for most of this video about HEMA, it needs to come to an end. So thank you guys, all of you, so much for watching, and see you later. Bye.